So today we're going to pick up right where we left off yesterday and learn how to calculate what's called overtime pay. A lot of jobs that you'll have in your lifetime may give you the option to work what's called overtime. There's a set number of hours that you can work required by law before your employer has to start paying you overtime. Most places it's 40 hours, but for some of the examples we have today, it kind of varies depending on the problem. But the idea is once you work, say 40 hours, and you go in on a Saturday that you weren't normally scheduled to work, they have to pay you more than they normally would. And the way they calculate that is based off of an overtime rate. That is basically a multiplier for your current straight time pay. So the two different types that we're going to talk about are time and a half and double time. It is literally that. Excuse me. So for time and a half, they will pay you 1.5 times your normal rate. So if you say make $10 an hour, 1.5 times that would be $15 an hour. So all of the hours you work, if you're making time and a half overtime, would be $15. For our purposes, we're going to use 1.5 as our multiplier, but 1.5 will work if you're more comfortable with fractions. Double time is exactly what it sounds like. They will pay you twice your normal rate. So if you normally would make $10 an hour and you have to come in, say, Christmas Eve or something, and they offer to pay you double time, they will pay you 2 times your current salary or current hourly rate. Keep those in mind. Time and a half and double time. It changes from problem to problem, so make sure you read them carefully for your setup. Our first example, we'll keep it nice and straightforward. Josie Perez makes $9 an hour. She worked 40 hours regular and 6 hours at time and a half. Find her total pay. Now you notice they didn't give us two different dollar amounts. Her flat straight time pay is $9 an hour, and then it's up to us to take care of the rest of it. So the way I set these up, I calculate straight time pay and then just add on the overtime pay hours. So she worked $9 an hour for 40 hours. And then her overtime rate was time and a half. So that's 1.5. That's our multiplier. Time and a half, her $9 an hour, times her overtime time, which was 6 hours. This is my straight, what we did yesterday. And this section will calculate my overtime. If you set it up the way I did, you should be able to type this straight into your calculator and get the total pay, straight time plus overtime. If your calculator has parentheses, feel free to use those. If not, you just need to make sure to multiply instead of inserting these parentheses. Right? Every calculator would be able to do that if you did the multiplication. So when I worked this out, I got $441. Not bad for a week. All right, moving on. Ed makes $11.50 an hour. This week he worked 36 regular hours and 7 hours at double time. So it's a different multiplier in this one since it's double time. Find his total pay. So we're going to calculate his straight the same way we did up here. Take the hours times the rate. So he worked 36 hours at $11.50. And I just realized I reversed the order on those than I did on the first one, but it shouldn't matter since we're multiplying. 36 hours at $11.50, and then the multiplier, double time, 7 hours at $11.50. Okay, straight time, overtime pay. You should be able to, again, just type it straight in on your calculator, or if you want smaller pieces, work them out separately, work out the first half and then the second half and add them together. So Ed's paycheck for the week before taxes is $575. All right, last one here. Western Delivery pays its courier straight time for 36 hours and double time for any hours more than the 36 they were scheduled to work. Last week, Kevin worked 42 hours. So there seems like there's a couple extra numbers floating around in here, but he normally works 36. This week he worked 42. So we're going to have to figure out how many hours of actual overtime work he did. But other than that, the setup is going to be very similar to what we just did at the beginning. So his rate is double time. So he works 36 hours, $15 an hour, 36 hours, and then he jumps into overtime, right? Double the $15, but then his overtime hours. Well, his overtime hours, he normally works 36. This week he worked 42. He's got 6 extra hours of overtime, right? What he normally works, just subtract that from what he did work. So his overtime, 6 hours. That one, again, straight time, overtime pay. Punch it in on your calculator, use the parentheses, or make sure you're multiplying these numbers together. 720.